Tomorrow, February 25th, something inside you is about to break free, and no matter how much you've tried to keep it buried, it won't stay quiet anymore. Most people have no idea what's about to happen. They'll feel it, sure, they'll sense something shifting beneath the surface, but they won't understand why they suddenly can't bite their tongue, why they're pulling away from people they used to accommodate, or why the good version of themselves feels like a costume they can no longer wear. But you're going to understand exactly what's happening, because tomorrow isn't just another day. It's the day the sun squares black moon Lilith, a cosmic collision that forces your shadow self to speak. And trust me, it has a lot to say. And if you've been feeling this strange, almost suffocating urge to say what you really think, even if it ruins the peace, keep watching. Because there's one specific reason why this is happening to you right now, and I'll reveal exactly what it is later in this video. So stay tuned. But first you need to understand something critical. This isn't random. Tomorrow's alignment is happening at the exact mathematical degree, 7 degrees and 32 minutes, in two of the most volatile signs of the zodiac. The sun in Pisces, where your ego dissolves into empathy and compassion, is violently clashing with Lilith in Sagittarius, where your wildest, most untamed truth has been locked away. And when these two forces collide at a perfect 90-degree angle, the psychological pressure cooker explodes. The version of you that smiles when you want to scream, that's about to crack. The part of you that always puts others first, that swallows your needs to keep everyone comfortable, it's about to rebel, because your shadow self, the one you've been hiding to be acceptable, is done waiting for permission. Most people have no idea what Lilith really is. Let's get one thing straight. Black Moon Lilith isn't a planet. It's not an asteroid. It's not even a physical object you can see in the sky. It's a mathematical point, the furthest distance the moon travels from Earth in its elliptical orbit. It's a void, an absence, a gravitational ghost. And that's exactly why it's so powerful, because Lilith represents what's been exiled, what's been pushed to the furthest edges of your psyche to make you socially acceptable. In ancient mythology, Lilith was the first wife of Adam who refused to submit, refused to lie beneath him, refused to play the role she was assigned. And when she was told to obey, she didn't negotiate, she didn't compromise. She grew wings and flew straight into the wilderness, choosing exile over submission. That's the energy inside you right now, the part of you that's been told to dim its light, soften its truth, and shrink to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. And tomorrow, when the sun, your conscious identity, your visible self, everything you show the world, forms a harsh square to this exiled force, there's going to be a reckoning. A square in astrology is conflict. It's tension. It's two massive forces grinding against each other until something breaks. And what's about to break is the mask you've been wearing. The cosmic timing is no coincidence. Here's where things get even more intense. This Sun-Lilith clash isn't happening in isolation. We're in the middle of one of the most volatile astrological periods of the entire decade. Just 5 days ago, Saturn and Neptune merged at 0 degrees Aries, a once-in-a-lifetime event that dissolved old structures and forced you to question what's even real anymore. Tomorrow, Mercury goes retrograde in Pisces, pulling your mind inward and demanding you review every lie you've told yourself to keep the peace. And just 2 days after the Lilith square, Mars collides with Uranus in a violent aspect that will externalize everything you've just realized internally. Sudden breakups, shocking resignations, explosive confrontations. The cosmos isn't giving you time to think, it's forcing you to act. This is a pressure chamber. The walls are closing in on your old identity, and the only way out is through the shadow. And that shadow, it's been waiting a long time to speak. You've been feeling different lately. Here's why. Maybe you've noticed it already. Something's been off for weeks now. You're in conversations, nodding along, playing your part, but internally, you're screaming. You're sitting in relationships where you're constantly accommodating, constantly adjusting, constantly making yourself smaller to fit the other person's comfort zone. And for the first time in your life, you're not okay with it anymore. Or maybe it's showing up differently. Maybe you've been catching yourself zoning out mid-conversation, staring into space, completely detached from what's happening around you. Not because you're tired, but because you're checking out. Your soul is already preparing to leave spaces that no longer serve it. This is Lilith waking up. This is your shadow self stretching after years of being locked in the basement of your psyche. And tomorrow, when the sun shines its light directly onto this exiled part of you, there's no more hiding, no more pretending, no more, "I'm fine." Because here's what most people don't understand. The sun doesn't just illuminate, it forces visibility. And Lilith doesn't just whisper, she roars. When these two collide, your darkest, most suppressed desires don't just surface, they demand to be lived. And that brings us to the 3 specific desires that are about to break free. These aren't small urges, these aren't fleeting thoughts. These are primal, life-altering truths that have been buried so deep you might not even recognize them as yours. But trust me, they are, and they're about to change everything. The first desire, sovereign truth over polite silence. Remember when I said if you've been feeling this suffocating urge to say what you really think, there's a reason. This is it. The sun in Pisces is the ultimate people pleaser. It's the part of you that absorbs everyone's emotions, that smooths over conflict before it even starts, that stays quiet to avoid making waves. Pisces operates on hyper-empathy. It feels everything. And because it feels everything, it's learned to suppress its own truth to protect the emotional harmony of the room. You've done this your whole life, haven't you? Swallowed your real opinion because it might hurt someone's feelings, softened your truth because the full version felt too harsh, smiled and nodded while internally knowing that what's being said is complete bullshit. You've become a master at spiritual bypassing, using concepts like everything happens for a reason or just send them love to avoid dealing with the uncomfortable, messy reality in front of you. But Lilith in Sagittarius, she's allergic to inauthenticity. She can smell a fake smile from a mile away, and she spent years watching you bite your tongue, watching you dilute your truth, watching you perform goodness at the expense of your own soul, and she's had enough. The desire breaking free tomorrow is the visceral, undeniable need to speak the unfiltered truth, even if it disrupts everything, even if it makes you the difficult one, even if it shatters the illusion of peace you've been maintaining. This isn't about being cruel. It's not about hurting people for the sake of it. It's about recognizing that true spiritual unity, the thing Pisces wants most, can never be built on a foundation of suppressed truth and polite lies. You're done nodding along. You're done pretending you agree. You're done being the person who stays quiet so everyone else can stay comfortable. The wild part? Once you start speaking this truth, you won't be able to stop. It's like a dam breaking. Years of suppressed observations, unspoken resentments, and swallowed authenticity will come flooding out. And some people won't like it. They'll call you changed. They'll say you're not yourself anymore, but the truth is you're finally being yourself. The version they preferred was the sanitized one. The second desire, raw autonomy over enmeshment. The second desire erupting from your shadow is even more primal, the ruthless, unapologetic craving for absolute personal sovereignty. And it's going to manifest as a sudden, almost violent pulling away from codependency, enmeshment, and suffocating commitments. Here's what's been happening. You've been over-identifying with others. The Pisces sun has this dangerous tendency to dissolve boundaries. Where do you end and your partner begins? Where does your identity stop and your family's expectations start? The lines have become so blurred that you've lost yourself entirely in the process of trying to love, support, and save everyone around you. You've become the eternal caretaker, the one everyone leans on, the one who's always available, always understanding, always willing to sacrifice their own needs for the collective good. And somewhere along the way, you convinced yourself this was noble, that this was love. But Lilith in Sagittarius knows the truth. This isn't love, this is self-abandonment, and she's claustrophobic. Sagittarius is the archer, the wanderer, the lone wolf who needs vast open spaces to breathe. When Lilith occupies this sign, she carries the primal memory of choosing exile over submission. She'd rather face the harsh wilderness alone than be caged in someone else's paradise. And tomorrow, when the sun squares this placement, every relationship, every commitment, every obligation that feels like a cage is going to trigger a fight or flight response. The desire breaking free is your fundamental right to walk away, to establish rigid boundaries, to prioritize your need for adventure, expansion, and freedom over everyone else's need for your constant presence and emotional labor. This might show up suddenly. You might wake up tomorrow and realize you can't do this anymore, whatever this is. Maybe it's the relationship where you're always the one adjusting. Maybe it's the friendship where you're always the therapist. Maybe it's the family dynamic where you're expected to show up, smile, and play the role you've always played. And for the first time, you're going to say no, not because you're trying to hurt anyone, not because you don't care, but because you finally understand that radical sovereignty isn't a betrayal of love. It's a prerequisite for it. You can't truly love from a place of resentment and depletion, and you've been running on empty for way too long. Some people will understand. Most won't. They'll accuse you of being selfish. They'll say you've changed, that you're not the person you used to be, and they'll be right. Because the person you used to be was performing a version of yourself that kept everyone else comfortable while slowly killing you inside. The wildest part, once you reclaim this autonomy, once you stop fearing that your need for space makes you a villain, you'll realize how much power you've been giving away, and you won't want it back. The third desire, to embody the terrible and reject the sanitized. This is the deepest, darkest, and most psychologically profound desire about to surface, and it's the one most people will be too afraid to admit. The hunger to reclaim the messy, the angry, the sexual, and the terrible parts of yourself, and completely reject the sanitized, spiritually pure, easily digestible persona you've been performing. Let me explain what I mean. Lilith represents the inner child that was locked in the basement, so the rest of you could be deemed acceptable by society. For those of you with strong Pisces energy, you've been taught that certain emotions are dangerous. Rage, unspiritual, jealousy, toxic, raw, taboo lust, shameful, cutthroat ambition, unenlightened. So what did you do? You suppressed them, you meditated them away, you forgave before you even allowed yourself to feel the anger. You performed grace and ease and unbothered spiritual elevation, all while the darkest parts of you screamed from the basement, begging to be acknowledged. But Lilith in Sagittarius is a fire sign. She's holding years of volcanic rage, passion, and untamed instinct. She was told early in life to dim her light, to soften her edges, to make herself smaller so others wouldn't feel threatened. And tomorrow, when the sun shines directly on her, that basement door is going to explode off its hinges. The desire breaking free is the right to be entirely unspiritual and deeply human. It's the urge to feel visceral rage without immediately trying to transcend it or forgive the person who wronged you. It's the desire to reclaim your sexuality without performing it for anyone's approval or comfort. It's the command to stop fearing your own darkness. And here's the revelation that's going to hit you. The parts of yourself you thought would make you terrible or unlovable, they're actually the exact medicine you need. Because all that suppressed fire, it's not dangerous. It's your vitality. It's your life force. And by trying to be good all the time, you've been slowly numbing yourself to death. Tomorrow, you're going to feel this surge of something wild, something raw, something that doesn't fit into the spiritual Pinterest quote version of yourself. And instead of pushing it back down, instead of shaming yourself for it, you're going to let it exist. You're going to embrace the role of the outcast, the rebel, the one who refuses to perform goodness anymore. Because the truth is, you're not terrible. You're just finally real. What happens tomorrow will echo for months. Here's what you need to understand. The Sun-Lilith square peaks tomorrow at exactly 10:41 p.m. Universal Time. But the effects? They don't end when the transit passes. This is a psychological threshold. Once your shadow speaks, once these three desires break free, you can't unknow them. You can't put them back in the box. And the cosmic timing ensures you won't be able to ignore them. Tomorrow night, Mercury goes retrograde in Pisces, forcing you to internally process everything that's just surfaced. You won't be able to distract yourself. You won't be able to escape into your usual coping mechanisms. The universe is mandating a period of deep, uncomfortable self-reflection. And then, on February 27th, just 2 days later, Mars squares Uranus in one of the most explosive, disruptive transits of the year. This is when the internal realization becomes external action. The truth you spoke? It's going to have consequences. The boundaries you set? People are going to test them. The wild, untamed part of you that finally emerged. It's going to demand you live it, not just acknowledge it. You might find yourself suddenly ending relationships that felt permanent, quitting jobs that were secure, walking away from entire life paths because they no longer fit the person you're becoming. And it's going to feel terrifying and liberating at the same time. Because here's the thing most people don't tell you about shadow work. It's not about becoming a better version of yourself. It's about becoming the real version. The version you were before the world told you who to be. You're standing at a crossroads right now. Tomorrow you have a choice. When your shadow self speaks, when these suppressed desires surface, when the mask starts cracking, you can resist it or you can surrender to it. If you resist, if you try to push it all back down and maintain the good persona, you're going to feel the pressure intensify. The rage will turn inward. The need for autonomy will manifest as anxiety and restlessness. The hunger for authenticity will eat away at you from the inside until you can't recognize yourself anymore. But if you surrender, if you allow the shadow to integrate, if you give yourself permission to be messy and angry and wild and real, something incredible happens. You stop performing. You stop exhausting yourself trying to be palatable. You stop giving away your power to maintain other people's comfort. And here's the part that will surprise you. When you finally stop trying to be good, when you embrace the parts of yourself you thought were unlovable, you become magnetic in a way you've never experienced before. Because authenticity, raw, unfiltered, unapologetic authenticity, is the rarest thing in a world full of people performing their acceptability. The people who are only comfortable with your sanitized version will fall away, and that's not a loss, that's a clearing, because the people who can handle your full spectrum, the light and the shadow, the soft and the fierce, the spiritual and the primal, those are your people, and they're waiting for you to show up as you actually are. The energy you're feeling, it's preparation. If you've been feeling weird, restless or on edge for the past few days, that's not anxiety, that's not a random mood swing, that's your nervous system preparing for what's about to happen. Your body knows before your mind does that a massive shift is coming. You might notice physical symptoms, waves of heat, tightness in your chest, disrupted sleep, vivid taboo dreams that shake you awake. These aren't problems to fix, they're signals that blocked energy is finally moving. The shadow has been suppressed for so long that it requires physical, somatic release. Don't fight it. Let it move through you. Scream into a pillow if you need to. Dance until you're exhausted. Write out the ugliest thoughts in a journal and burn the pages. Your shadow needs expression, not suppression. And the more you allow it to move somatically, the less it will explode destructively in your relationships and decisions. This is alchemy. This is transformation. And it's happening whether you're ready or not. After tomorrow, nothing will be the same. The eclipse in mid-March already shifted the timeline. Saturn and Neptune dissolved the old structures, and tomorrow, the Sun-Lilith square ensures there's no going back to who you used to be. Some of you will wake up on February 26th feeling lighter, not because everything's resolved, but because you finally stopped carrying the weight of pretending. The constant performance of fine will be gone. The exhausting act of being palatable will end. And in its place there will be clarity, sharp, undeniable clarity about who you are and what you will no longer tolerate. Others will wake up feeling unsettled, not in a bad way, but in a way that makes you realize a chapter has closed and you're standing at the edge of something entirely new. The old identities, the old roles, the old agreements, they won't fit anymore, and that's terrifying and necessary at the same time. Because the world after tomorrow won't operate by the same rules you've been living under. Your shadow self has spoken, and it's not going back into hiding. The desires that broke free, for sovereign truth, for raw autonomy, for the right to be imperfect and real, they're not going to quietly disappear. They're going to reshape your entire life. And maybe that's exactly what needs to happen. Maybe you've been playing small for so long that you forgot what it feels like to take up space. Maybe you've been so focused on being good that you forgot the power of being authentic. Maybe the version of you that's about to emerge, messy, unapologetic, untamed, is the version you were always meant to be. The sun squares Lilith tomorrow at 7 degrees and 32 minutes. The shadow self speaks at a precise mathematical degree, and when it does, the only question that matters is, will you listen? Because this isn't just about tomorrow. This is about every day after. This is about the person you're choosing to become when the mask finally cracks and the real you demands to be seen. The cosmos has been building to this moment. The transits have aligned, the pressure has reached its peak, and tomorrow everything you've been suppressing breaks free. The question is, are you ready to let it? If you're still watching, I'd like to thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed the content and want to see more, please consider clicking the subscribe button. Your support is very appreciated. Feel free to share your experiences or thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take care and subscribe for more insightful content.